Aiden Ross is done for. People are saying Doechii didn't just win this beef, she destroyed his entire career with one calculated move. The internet is spinning because what looked like a simple diss track just exposed the biggest fraud in streaming history.
Everybody thought they knew the full story about this beef. Doechii dropped Get Up Girl with SZA, Aiden got triggered, he made a trash diss track with 6ix9ine called Bacon. Internet laughed at him. End of story, right? That was the version everyone repeated, but now new details about how Doechii planned this whole thing, how she studied Kendrick's playbook, and how she intentionally baited the worst people in hip-hop to expose themselves. The whole narrative is twisting. Because what we're witnessing isn't just beef, it's a cultural purge, and Aiden Ross just became the first casualty. Let me break down exactly how Doechii set this trap. Because when you see the timeline, the strategy, and the way she moved, this was calculated. First, let's talk about the song itself. Get Up Girl wasn't just a random track. Doechii comes from TDE, the same label that gave us Kendrick Lamar, the master of strategic warfare in hip-hop. And just months before releasing this track, where was Doechii? Opening for Kendrick on the GNX tour in December 2025. She was literally studying the playbook of the greatest strategic mind in modern rap. Now look at the timing. She drops this track right at the start of 2026, when hip-hop discourse is already shifting. Drake's reputation is crumbling, the Legion of Lame is getting exposed left and right. The culture is hungry for someone to draw a line in the sand and say enough is enough to the frauds and grifters. And what does Doechii do in this song? She calls out exactly the type of people who would expose themselves by responding. She pokes at insecurity. She challenges masculinity. She questions authenticity. Think about it. Every single line was designed to trigger a specific type of person. Fans online turned into investigators the moment Bacon dropped. They started analyzing everything. The lyrics Aiden used, the desperation in his voice, the fact he needed 6ix9ine for validation. They're comparing his current behavior to his past scandals, studying his friendship with Drake, zooming in on every toxic moment he's co-signed over the years. Online detectives found a pattern. Every time Aiden gets called out, he does the same thing. He doubles down. He gets more aggressive. He tries to use his platform to intimidate. But this time, it backfired completely. TMZ just dropped articles about how Aiden's reputation has never been lower. Social media is flooding with posts calling him out. Even people who were neutral about him before are now seeing him for exactly what he is, a clout-chasing parasite who uses hip-hop for views but contributes nothing to the culture. And here's the craziest part. Doechii didn't even have to respond directly to Bacon. She just kept posting, smiling, unbothered, trolling him in the most subtle ways. She posted herself looking confident and happy while Aiden's entire internet presence started collapsing around him. Fans swear they can see the exact moment Doechii decided to execute this plan. Some say it was during the Kendrick tour. Others think it was when she saw how Drake's enablers were destroying hip-hop's credibility. Either way, she waited for the perfect moment. And the optics? Brutal for Aiden. Here's a young black woman, one of the brightest stars in hip-hop right now, getting disrespected with disgusting language by a streamer who built his career off exploiting hip-hop culture. A streamer who dances for Drake's approval. A streamer who stands next to 6ix9ine, a literal snitch and predator for validation. Let's keep it real. Everything about Aiden's response screams desperation. The lyrics were trash, the production was trash, the features were trash. Even his own fans couldn't defend it. Comment sections were filled with people saying, "Bro, this ain't it," and "delete this immediately." And for anyone who doesn't know, this isn't the first time Aiden has shown his true colors. He's repeatedly associated with toxic behavior, enabled dangerous people, and used his platform to spread negativity. But because he had Drake in his corner and a massive streaming audience, people let it slide. Not anymore. Doechii's move forced everyone to pick a side. You're either with hip-hop's values or you're with Aiden Ross. And when you frame it like that, the choice becomes real clear, real fast. The evidence is overwhelming. In leaked clips from his stream, you can clearly see Aiden spiraling. He's defensive, He's angry, he's trying to justify himself, but every word just makes him look worse. Online detectives took this to a new level, digging into every detail like they on some CSI mission. They started studying his past streams, his friendships, his business deals, his associations, and folks online swear this man has been a fraud from day one. Now, let's get into the motive, because this is where everything starts clicking. Why would Doechii risk starting beef with one of the biggest streamers on the internet? Why would she intentionally provoke someone with millions of followers who could send hate her way? The answer is simple. She's fighting for the culture. See, Doechii been watching what's happened to hip-hop over the last 5-6 years. Streamers like Aiden Ross started using rap for content. They'd bring rappers on their streams, get millions of views, build their brands off the culture's back, then turn around and disrespect everything hip-hop stands for. Think about it. These dudes went from being nobodies to having more influence than actual artists. Aiden went from streaming video games to interviewing Drake, hosting rap battles, and acting like he's some authority on hip-hop. But what has he contributed? Nothing. He's a parasite. And Doechii saw this happening in real time. She watched rappers embarrass themselves trying to look cool on streams. She watched streamers like Aiden get richer and more powerful while actual hip-hop artists struggled. She watched the culture get diluted, disrespected, and exploited. Meanwhile, Doechii's been putting in real work. She signed to TDE, one of the most respected labels in rap. She's been building her craft, touring with legends, earning respect from OGs in the game. She represents everything hip-hop is supposed to be: authentic, skilled, and rooted in the culture's values. But here's where the motive gets even deeper. Doechii's career is on the verge of superstardom. She hasn't even dropped her debut album yet, and she's already one of the most talked about artists in the game. This was the perfect time to make a statement. Back in her earlier days, people say she was grinding harder than anyone, perfecting her flow, studying the greats, learning the business. But now she's in a position where she has a platform big enough to actually change the conversation. That kind of power comes with responsibility. And what did she see when she looked at the state of hip-hop? Drake's reputation crumbling after losing to Kendrick, the Legion of Lame getting exposed, frauds and grifters scrambling to protect their image, the culture begging for someone to draw a clear line between real hip-hop and the clout-chasing nonsense. Put all that together, it looks like the perfect recipe for a strategic cultural strike. Now, let's talk about Aiden's motive for responding, because his reaction tells you everything about his insecurities. Aiden's been dealing with serious credibility issues for a while now. His content didn't evolve, his audience started seeing through the act. Other streamers are doing bigger numbers. His friendship with Drake, which used to seem cool, now makes him look like a desperate hanger-on. These dudes went from being on top of the streaming world to scrambling for relevance. Back in their peak, people say Aiden was pulling in hundreds of thousands per stream, but now he reportedly struggles to keep viewers engaged unless he's manufacturing drama or exploiting controversy. Meanwhile, Doechii's still out here showing growth. Her music is charting, her name is buzzing, she's getting cosigns from legends. That can spark some real envy fast. And it gets worse for Aiden, because every time he tries to clap back at criticism, he just proves his critics right. He can't handle being challenged. He can't handle someone calling out his fraudulent behavior. So what does he do? He makes a diss track with 6ix9ine, literally one of the most hated figures in hip-hop history. That kind of fall-off hits different. When you go from being seen as cool and influential to being seen as a joke and a fraud, that desperation shows. And here's the thing, Doechii didn't just expose Aiden, she exposed everyone connected to him. Drake looks worse for associating with him, 6ix9ine looks worse for collaborating with him. Every single person in Aiden's circle who co-signed this response just showed the world they're not really about hip-hop. The motive becomes crystal clear. Doechii wanted to force a reckoning. She wanted to separate the real from the fake, and she used Aiden as the perfect example because he represents everything wrong with modern hip-hop's relationship with internet culture. Let's keep it real. This wasn't about personal beef. This was about making a statement that'll echo through the culture for years, and Aiden took the bait exactly like she knew he would. But here's the part that really hits different. The language Aiden used in Bacon wasn't just disrespectful, it was disgusting. We're talking about a young woman who's been working her entire life to make it in one of the hardest industries in the world. Doechii barely got her flowers before people started hating. She's been grinding in a male-dominated space, dealing with constant scrutiny, fighting for respect, and this is how Aiden responds? The leaked audio from Bacon shows exactly who Aiden Ross really is. You can hear the hatred in his voice. The lyrics he chose weren't clever disses, they were vile, misogynistic attacks designed to dehumanize her. That's somebody's daughter. That's a human being who did nothing to deserve that level of disrespect except make a song that hurt his feelings? Come on. And the saddest part? This isn't even the first time Aiden's shown this side of himself. He's repeatedly platformed toxic people, enabled dangerous rhetoric, and used his stream to spread negativity. But because he had the protection of being Drake's friend and having millions of followers, people looked the other way. Not anymore. What makes this emotional story even more powerful is how Doechii responded. She didn't cry, she didn't lash out, she didn't give Aiden the satisfaction of seeing her hurt. Instead, she smiled. She posted herself looking confident and happy. She showed the world that his words have no power over her. That's somebody's hero right there. Young girls watching Doechii right now are learning how to stand tall in the face of hatred. They're learning that you don't have to sink to someone's level to win. They're learning that real strength comes from knowing your worth. And they're dealing with watching someone they admire get attacked with vicious language by a man who has a massive platform and zero accountability. That's messed up. Fans online started sharing their own stories about being bullied, disrespected, or attacked by men like Aiden. Women in hip-hop started speaking out about how common this kind of treatment is. The emotional weight of this moment became bigger than just one beef. This became a conversation about respect, about values, about what we're willing to tolerate in our culture. And honestly, that's exactly what Doechii wanted. She turned a moment of attack into a movement of accountability. The emotional impact is undeniable. You can see it in the comments. You can feel it in the way people are defending Doechii. You can hear it in the way even male rappers are calling out Aiden for crossing the line. That's somebody's sister out here dealing with trauma over a situation she controlled from the start, but still had to endure disgusting language just to prove a point about the state of hip-hop. And that hits different. Now, this whole situation gets even crazier when you realize just how much evidence there is that Doechii planned every single step of this. Let's go back to the song structure of Get Up Girl. If you really listen to the lyrics, Doechii wasn't just making music, she was setting traps. Every bar was designed to trigger a specific response from a specific type of person. She rapped about men who fake their street credibility. She rapped about people who use hip-hop for clout without respecting the culture. She rapped about frauds who hide behind famous friends. Does that sound like anyone we know? Fans online been working like full-blown investigators, and they found receipts that prove Doechii was watching Aiden's behavior for months. Old tweets, old stream clips, old interviews where she subtly criticized the way streamers exploit hap culture. This wasn't impulsive, this was strategic. Meanwhile, online detectives also started analyzing Aiden's response patterns. They noticed he always reacts the same way when challenged. He gets defensive. He recruits controversial figures for backup. He tries to use shock value to win attention. And Doechii knew this. She studied his playbook just like she studied Kendrick's. She knew exactly what buttons to push to make him expose himself. Reports say that people close to Doechii's camp aren't even surprised by how this played out. They allegedly knew she had a bigger plan. They knew she wasn't just making music, she was making moves. And the proof is in the results. After Bacon dropped, Doechii's streaming numbers went up, her social media followers increased, her name started trending worldwide. Meanwhile, Aiden's reputation hit an all-time low. TMZ just dropped another article highlighting how sponsors are reportedly distancing themselves from Aiden. Brands don't want to be associated with someone who uses that kind of language against women. That's a career-ending type of consequence. Let's talk about the 6ix9ine factor, because that choice alone tells you everything. Aiden could have responded solo. He could have brought on someone respectable, but he chose 6ix9ine, a known snitch, a convicted criminal, someone universally hated in hip-hop. Why? Because Aiden doesn't understand the culture. He thinks controversy equals relevance. He thinks shock value equals respect. He's wrong. Online detectives discovered that this isn't even the first time Aiden tried to insert himself into hip-hop beef. He did it with the Drake and Kendrick situation. He did it with other rap controversies. He's always trying to position himself as some kind of insider or authority. But Doechii just exposed that he's an outsider pretending to be an insider, and the culture is rejecting him. Fans swear you can see the exact moment Aiden realized he messed up. In his follow-up streams after Bacon dropped, he looked defeated. He tried to double down, but you could see the panic in his eyes. He knows he crossed the line he can't come back from. And honestly, the frame-by-frame analysis people are doing of his streams is wild. They're pointing out his body language, his tone shifts, his defensive reactions. It's like watching someone's career crumble in real time. In leaked clips from Discord servers and private group chats, people allegedly close to Aiden are saying he's spiraling. He's losing sleep over the backlash. He's realizing that his friendship with Drake can't protect him from the consequences of his own actions. Meanwhile, Doechii is out here living her best life, posting photos from the studio, teasing her upcoming album, and showing the world that she's unbothered. The evidence is overwhelming. Comparison videos online show Doechii before the beef and after the beef. Her confidence didn't just stay the same, it increased. She's glowing, she's thriving, she's winning. Aiden, on the other hand, looks like he's aged 5 years in 5 days. The stress is visible, and people online are pointing it out. Reports say that hip-hop OGs are privately reaching out to Doechii to show respect for how she handled this. Legends in the game are allegedly co-signing her approach, praising her for standing up to the frauds and grifters. Everything is speculation until it's confirmed, but based on the evidence, the patterns, and the outcomes, Doechii didn't just win this beef, she orchestrated a masterclass in cultural warfare, and Aiden Ross just became the cautionary tale she needed to make her points.
Let's talk about the bigger picture here, because this beef is connected to so many other stories happening in hip-hop right now. First, there's the Drake situation. After his loss to Kendrick Lamar in what might be the most decisive rap battle in history, Drake's entire image has been under a microscope. And who's standing right next to him through all of it? Aiden Ross. People are starting to ask questions. Why does Drake associate with someone like Aiden? What does that say about Drake's judgment? What does that say about the people Drake chooses to surround himself with? And honestly, this is damaging Drake's legacy even further, because every time Aiden does something stupid, people connect it back to Drake. Every time Aiden shows his true colors, people question why Drake co-signs him. Then there's the 6ix9ine factor. This man is a snitch. He testified against his own crew. He's a convicted criminal. He's universally disrespected in hip-hop, and Aiden chose him as his feature for a diss track. That tells you everything about Aiden's understanding of hip-hop culture, which is to say, he has none. Let's also talk about the streamer versus rapper dynamic that's been building for years. Streamers started getting more views than music videos. Streamers started making more money than independent artists. Streamers started having more influence over public opinion than actual rappers. And for a while, rappers played along. They'd go on streams, do interviews, play games, and try to reach new audiences. But what happened? Streamers like Aiden started acting like they were the culture, instead of just being guests in it. Doechii's move is a rejection of that entire dynamic. She's saying, no, you don't get to define hip-hop. You don't get to disrespect us and still profit from our culture. You don't get to pretend you're one of us when you've never contributed anything. And the culture is agreeing with her. There's also a conversation happening about misogyny in hip-hop. For years, female rappers have dealt with disrespect, undermining, and attacks that male rappers never face. The language Aiden used against Doechii is the same language that's been used to silence women in rap for decades. But Doechii isn't being silenced, she's thriving. And that's a powerful message for every woman in hip-hop who's ever been told she doesn't belong. Another side story people are talking about is the generational divide in hip-hop. Older fans are praising Doechii for bringing back the culture's values. Younger fans are split between defending Aiden because they grew up watching his streams or abandoning him because they're realizing he's toxic. This is creating a shift in how hip-hop culture operates online. People are starting to recognize that just because someone has a platform doesn't mean they deserve respect. And let's keep it real, the memes have been brutal. People online have turned Aiden into a joke. They're clipping his worst moments, remixing Bacon to make it sound even worse, and creating compilations of every time he's embarrassed himself. That's the kind of damage you can't come back from. Once the internet decides you're a joke forever. Meanwhile, Doechii is getting praise from all corners. Music critics are writing think pieces about her strategic mind. Fans are making appreciation posts. Even people who never listened to her music before are checking out her catalog. This beef did exactly what she wanted it to do. It separated the real from the fake. It drew a line in the sand and it forced everyone to pick a side.
And this story is still unfolding with way bigger implications than just one beef between a rapper and a streamer. What we're seeing here is a cultural reckoning. Hip-hop is in the middle of redefining what it stands for, who it respects, and what behavior it tolerates. And Doechii just accelerated that process. The bigger conversation is about accountability. For too long, people like Aiden Ross have been able to exploit hip-hop without facing consequences. They've used the culture for clicks, views, and money, then turned around and disrespected everything it represents. But now, the culture is fighting back. When you constantly platform toxic people, enable dangerous rhetoric, and spread negativity, you're not just being edgy or controversial, you're damaging an entire art form that millions of people depend on for expression, identity, and community. Aiden Ross's situation is a wild example, but it's also a warning for anybody who thinks they can use hip-hop without respecting it. The more you disrespect the culture, the more the culture will reject you. And this moment is bigger than just Aiden. This is about Drake. This is about 6ix9ine. This is about every clout-chasing rapper who's compromised their values for a viral moment. This is about every streamer who thinks they're bigger than the culture they're profiting from. Doechii's move is forcing a conversation that hip-hop has needed for years. What are our standards? What behavior are we willing to accept? Who gets to call themselves part of this culture? And the answer is becoming clear. If you're with the Legion of Lame, you're not with hip-hop. People like Glasses Malone are publicly challenging Aiden, calling him out for being a culture vulture. OGs in the game are speaking up. The gatekeepers are finally doing their job. And that's exactly what Doechii wanted. She didn't just want to win a beef, she wanted to shift the culture. She wanted to remind everyone that hip-hop has values: authenticity, respect, skill, integrity. Aiden Ross represents none of those things, and now the entire world can see it. This moment will be remembered as a turning point. The moment when hip-hop said enough is enough to the grifters and frauds. The moment when a young woman stood up to one of the most powerful streamers on the internet and won. And moving forward, anyone who associates with Aiden Ross is making a statement. They're saying, I'm okay with disrespecting women. I'm okay with exploiting hip-hop. I'm okay with being part of the problem. The culture is watching, and the culture is taking notes.
So where does this leave Aiden Ross? Where does this leave Doechii, and where does hip-hop go from here? For Aiden, this might be the beginning of the end. His reputation is destroyed. His credibility is gone. His association with Drake can't save him. His platform can't protect him. He crossed a line that the culture won't forgive. Reports say sponsors are already distancing themselves. Brands don't want to be associated with someone who uses that kind of language. And in the streaming world, once the money dries up, the relevance disappears fast. People are speculating that Aiden might try to rebrand, maybe he'll apologize, maybe he'll try to pivot to a different type of content. But honestly, it's too late. The internet doesn't forget, and hip-hop definitely doesn't forgive frauds. Some fans think Aiden will double down and lean into being the villain. He'll keep making inflammatory content, keep starting drama, keep chasing controversy. That's a losing strategy. Eventually, people get tired of the act. For Doechii, the future looks bright.
She's heading into 2026 with more momentum than ever. Her name is buzzing, her music is charting, she's getting cosigns from legends, and she hasn't even dropped her debut album yet. Speculation is that her album will be one of the biggest releases of the year. People are waiting to see what she does next. The anticipation is building, and every time someone brings up this beef, it just adds to her legend. Doechii is becoming exactly what hip-hop needs right now. A voice for authenticity, a defender of the culture, a symbol of resistance against the frauds and grifters. And when you look at the way she handled this situation, she's following the Kendrick Lamar blueprint perfectly. Stay calm, stay strategic, let your enemies expose themselves, and then watch as the culture rallies behind you. As Kendrick said on Good Credit, the hate gets real, the love gets faker. But when you're this great, that's how you should like it. And that's exactly what's happening to Doechii. She's becoming one of the most loved and most hated rappers in the game at the same time. And that's how you know you're doing something right. Meanwhile, the broader hip-hop landscape is shifting. The Legion of Lame is losing power. The frauds are being exposed. The culture is reclaiming its identity. And it all started with Doechii refusing to let someone like Aiden Ross disrespect her without consequences. This isn't just a beef. This is a movement, and Doechii is leading it.
So that's where we're at right now. Aiden Ross exposed as a fraud. Doechii ascending to superstardom. Hip-hop culture undergoing a massive shift. And the Legion of Lame scrambling to protect what little credibility they have left. But this story is far from over. Stay locked in because more details are dropping every single day. More reactions are surfacing, more people are speaking out, and reports say Doechii might have more moves planned that we haven't even seen yet. So drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Aiden Ross can ever recover from this? Or is his career officially done? And do you think Doechii's debut album is going to be one of the biggest releases of 2026? Let me know what you think about this entire situation. Are you Team Doechii? Are you shocked by how this played out? And what do you think hip-hop looks like moving forward after this cultural shift? Make sure you like this video if you've been following this beef. Hit that subscribe button if you want more deep dives into hip-hop drama and culture. And turn on notifications so you don't miss a single update because we're covering every twist and turn as this story develops. I appreciate every single one of you for rocking with me through this deep dive. This is the type of content that matters. This is the type of analysis that goes beyond surface level gossip and actually explores what's happening in the culture. And remember, in a world full of frauds and grifters, authenticity always wins. Doechii proved that, the culture proved that, and hip-hop is better for it. Stay safe out there, stay real, and never let anyone silence your voice just because they have a bigger platform. I'll catch you in the next one.